guys. First ever show following an Arsenal win. They made us wait for it, but it's nice and satisfying when you get that late win, isn't it? Arsenal 2-1 away at Sheffield United. We've got Ben Tomlinson on the top left. He's up north in the UK. We've got Edward Russell, who's in Singapore. I'm Andrew Whitelaw. I'm in Kuala Lumpur. And we've got Tom Usher, who's near London at the moment. Where are you, Tom?
In London, North London, actually.
Perfect. Start off with you, Tom. How are you? And particularly in the wake of that win. Feels nice, doesn't it?
Yeah, it's pretty good. I mean, I watched the Man City game, and then I thought we were actually doing all right in the Man City game until Xhaka and Mauri got injured, and then obviously it all just turned to pot when Louise came on. But then I didn't even watch the Brighton game because I was so despondent after that. But then I just heard that obviously in the Brighton game we were getting loads of little niggly fouls against us, and obviously that was, something like that Basuma guy got like 7 fouls, not without a card. But then watching the Sheffield game there, you can see the ref was very clearly taking a hard line on all the tiny fouls, and that obviously totally worked against Sheffield United. You could see that one of their game plan was to rough us up and hoof long balls into the area, which they did really well, to be fair, especially near the end and in the second half. But it didn't work, and I feel like their fouls ended up. I feel like the ref, by taking the control of the game, it made it a bit more stop-start, obviously, but it definitely gave us a lot more of an equal opportunity to play, which I felt, which obviously wasn't great for the neutral, but made me feel a lot better as an Arsenal fan in terms of how we actually performed, really.
Yeah, it's funny that Sheffield United are above us in the league, but they were very Stoke-esque, if we can say that, in that match, resorting to the Rory Delap throw-ins, the long throw-ins. You're right, although there were a couple of fouls, unnecessary ones, cynical ones, one on Kolasinac, just on the touchline, which didn't get picked up on, and then that weird decision to give the foul against Eddie Nketiah, which led to their equaliser. Still not 100% happy with the officiating on this one.
Yeah,
I feel like there's always surprising things with Arsenal, right? There's always so much to pick apart in terms of what's going on at the football club. I was a bit surprised by the lineup. I was a bit surprised by some of the performances, some positively so. Kieran Tierney stands out for me. Ben, what surprised you about that whole performance from the Gunners?
I mean, I've only seen this match and then the match against Southampton. I missed the first two after the lockdown here in the UK. So I've seen us win 2 matches in a row. I think, we've obviously gone to a back 5, which seems to have shored us up a little bit at the back. And, it's nice to see the kind of young players starting. But obviously, I think we look a little bit toothless. But I think we were pretty... I'm pretty happy, though, with the win. I think we need to focus on the FA Cup and, we're into the semi-final. So it'll be interesting to see what happens in the next game.
Yeah, just on the lineup, Andrew, I particularly liked the look of the left flank today with Tierney and Saka ahead of him, because they can both play each other's roles. So one could cover for the other as they go up. And as an opposition, you never know which of the two is going to bomb forward, which one you need to cover. So I think that worked well. And in the right flank as well, I know Maitland-Niles doesn't like playing as a right back or a right wing back, but I liked him and Pepe on the right side as well. And I think there was a lot of success down those 2 flanks, which we haven't seen when, say, Aubameyang's playing on the left of the front 3.
I was thinking we haven't seen a lot of Maitland-Niles recently. He obviously fell out of favour with Arteta fairly quickly, but I always thought he played pretty reasonably well under Arteta. So it was kind of nice to see him back in the side today, I thought.
What do you reckon, Tom? It's a bit weird, isn't it, for a guy like Ainsley Maitland-Niles? I saw you tweeting about him a bit. The fact that he could have this career at Arsenal as a fullback, just sort of embrace it. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I know. It's annoying because it's like, I think he's basically the archetypal utility player, of which the kind that teams, whoever, I mean, obviously us winning the league is just like a kind of fantasy at this stage, but it's the kind of player that you would need in your squad if you were going to challenge for any kind of title or any kind of cup or anything, because when you got players as unreliable as Guendouzi, and you got players that get injured as much as Bellerin, and players that haven't even played yet that we're giving deals to, like Suarez, at right back and then centre mid, then it makes sense to have a player like Maitland-Niles who can play in either of those positions, and also is homegrown. Obviously, he's like a London lad as well. Like it would be crazy for us to sell him. And for me personally, he does play. I think obviously it's kind of almost sacrilegious to say anything about Hector Bellerin, and I still love him as a player, and I would still want him in the squad. But I think he actually plays better than Bellerin at right back, and I think he actually overall is a kind of it feels more comfortable with Maitland-Niles. He's good going forward. I mean, it's neither here nor there. I think they're both pretty much on a par. But since Bellerin's come back from his injury, I think that him and Maitland-Niles have pretty much been the same level. And I think if Arteta really is just doing all of this because of his of Maitland-Niles' attitude towards right back, then it is a bit of a problem, because it's so annoying, because he is a really good right back, and obviously he can play in centre mid as well, and defensive mid. But for me personally, I think he's been one of our he's been one of our standout kind of young players coming through, and I think we should do everything to keep on to him, really.
Yeah, I agree. He gives a lot more of a physical presence as well, I feel. Hector was kind of getting pushed off the ball a lot after he returned from injury. And the thing with Maitland-Niles is, like, Willock's ahead of him in the pecking order in the middle of the park. So I don't understand why he keeps trying to push to make that position his own, because it's not going to happen.
Yeah, I think the Arteta's kind of system, the position he's played in, seems to suit him. I think he can tuck in a little bit, and he can play a bit in midfield. So I think it's a good position for him. So if he would be happy to knuckle down and just play that position, I think he could do well.
There's a worry maybe that he'd fade into obscurity if he were to leave Arsenal. You think he's kind of, people have different opinions of him, of how highly they rate him. Clearly, Tom, you clearly rate him fairly highly. It's kind of a make or break moment in his career at 22. If you can solidify your place at the Arsenal, big things await-ish, maybe. But otherwise, if he leaves Arsenal now for 20 million, there's no guarantee he's going to play as a centre midfielder. We've seen players who look at people like Kieran Gibbs, who I always rated. Not everyone did. He's now playing in the Championship at West Brom. He was an England player at Arsenal. So there's kind of that, if you do fall away from Arsenal, it's very difficult to get back to that level. So he could do a lot worse than just embracing the right back role.
Yeah, and if it comes down to him and Guendouzi, him 100% let Guendouzi go. Sorry, Tom.
Yeah, I'd say that as well. I mean, I was just going to say, if it comes down to someone, if it comes down to two players with attitude problems, in inverted commas, I mean, we don't really have all the evidence in the world that Maitland-Niles or Guendouzi really have attitude problems. And we've seen it more on the pitch than with Guendouzi than we've seen it with Maitland-Niles, at least, in terms of Guendouzi having an attitude problem. But in terms of keeping two players, I definitely think, in terms of those two, I definitely would rather keep Maitland-Niles. I mean, it was one of those things where either of those players as well, where you talk about the decline, but I mean, Iwobi's not done anything at Everton, really. Like, I mean, as you say, Kieran Gibbs ended up playing for West Brom in the Championship. Maitland-Niles is the kind of player where he could either be a solid player for us, a solid to great player for us, really, or he could go to somewhere like West Ham and ended up just kind of flitting from club to club to club, not really doing much. But it's like,
he could be our John O'Shea.
Yeah. It's like it's weird, because I think Oxlade-Chamberlain, he's similar to Oxlade-Chamberlain in the fact that he hasn't really settled a position down. But I think Oxlade-Chamberlain obviously was built for the centre mid role a lot more than he was right wing that Wenger was playing in. But Oxlade-Chamberlain is obviously different because he's gone on to win things with Liverpool, but he's not really played much either at Liverpool consistently. But I think Maitland-Niles is kind of a bit different, where he could do something really well for us if he played at right back, and he could obviously always tuck into centre mid if he chose to. So I don't know. I think it would be crazy to let him go.
Yeah, I think we're going to move on from Maitland-Niles though. He did have a good game. There was some good performances all around the pitch. I touched on Kieran Tierney. I do want to talk about Kieran Tierney after today, because I think all of us probably feel for him in terms of his injuries, right? Was very excited when he arrived from Celtic. Big reputation, just a really lovable footballer, because he proper heart on his sleeve, massive engine, loves a tackle and a great delivery. And we saw elements of all of that in his game today. if he can stay fit, surely a massive footballer for our football club. We saw Amy Lawrence on Twitter today, I don't know if you saw it. She was comparing him with young Nigel Winterburn, which was enjoyable. What do you reckon, Ben? Tierney, big moment, I think, for him. Got to stay fit, hasn't he?
Yeah, I'm excited about Tierney. I like his tucked in shirt. I like his attitude. Yeah, I think he'll be good. Finally, someone who can cross a ball. Yeah, it'd just be interested to see. If he can stay fit, it'll be nice to see what he can bring to the team.
There was a moment, like just towards the end of the match, I think, where he kind of fizzed it in along the ground, and Pepe got in front of Eddie. But we haven't seen a left back really fizz it in along the ground in a while. Like we're used to Kolasinac kind of getting to the byline and then trying to cut it in, or just aimlessly chucking it into the box. But that was a bit Liverpool, a bit Robertson, I felt, and that's definitely something that could work in our favour going forward. And as well, I've criticised Nketiah a lot, but seeing Nketiah and Saka and Pepe break away as a three, just on the subject of Liverpool, I liked that. The counter-attack that wouldn't have worked if we had Lacazette on the pitch, for example.
What about the fact that Guendouzi didn't play today, Tom? I actually have been a big champion of Guendouzi. I've always liked him for the reasons that you would like Guendouzi, right? His engine, his ability, his physicality. I think we lack that in the middle of the park. But having said that, I like how strong Arteta's been with him and Mesut Ozil, and I think that sets a really good precedent. Maybe something that needs to have been laid down many years ago. What did you think of Guendouzi being left out, and Ozil for that matter?
Well, I think I really like I've liked Guendouzi since he's come in. Obviously, he was kind of basically the best thing about Emery. Weirdly, if you could say anything was kind of good about Emery's reign, it was the fact that he blooded Guendouzi in so much, and that he played him so much and had so much faith in him. And it kind of repaid, because you could see how much he really did visibly improve that season. Even if everything else, I mean, we wasn't that bad. We finished fifth and we got knocked. Well, we lost there for Europa, but I mean, I think that was actually he was always consistently a plus under Emery's reign. And I think it's funny because the way that we view Arteta, I think a lot of us, me included especially, I think I'm definitely guilty of this, is that I see Arteta as kind of like holier than thou, just because he's an ex-Arsenal player, and you can see that he's worked under Pep. So we've got this kind of Pep kind of mythology around him, where he's kind of like, he obviously knows what he's doing a lot more than Emery ever did. But I mean, leaving Ozil out two games in a row, leaving Guendouzi out 2 games in a row, if Emery had done that, it would have been the same old story. Oh God, Emery's doing this, like this old story again. I mean, falling out with Guendouzi, if Emery had done that, it would have been unforgivable. Everyone would have been up in arms. But because Arteta's doing it, everyone's seeing it as, well, he's just doing it as a disciplinary thing, and we all trust Arteta to do that. But if it was, as I said, if it was under Emery, people would definitely be asking questions. And it's weird, because I think now what's happening with the majority of fans that I've spoken to is that people have basically just been saying, well, actually, I'd actually rather get rid of Guendouzi than keep him. And that's how much I think everyone trusts Arteta and his judgment. And I think it's the kind of little moments that we see where Leno gets clattered by that Mupé, or however you pronounce it, against Brighton. No player on the pitch ran up to him at the time and said or did anything. Just let Leno like scream in agony on the floor, while the other guy, he was just, oh, what did I do? And then after the pitch, he scores. After the game, he scores 2-1. We lose the game. Then Guendouzi comes up and throttles him. Obviously, could have got a way worse ban than he actually did. Didn't actually get anything in the end. But that's the kind of thing where it's like, Guendouzi's obviously got the right passion, he's got the right idea, and he's got something that, we could really use at the club, but he just seems to be doing it in a slightly wrong way. And obviously maybe we can excuse him because he's young, or maybe we can excuse him because he's got too much passion, he needs to learn to control it. But there's obviously a lot there to like about him. But I think that if it comes down to it, as I said, push comes down to shove, I mean, we've got to kind of make or break decision, because we could sell him for a lot more than we bought him for right now. And it could be a good bit of business if he does turn out to be, a bit of a flash in the pan, maybe. I don't know. But it's hard to decide.
No, just getting in Mopé's face was the most he'd done all match. And I think You're right. Like, if the fans going against him is because he hasn't really been doing much. If there was this issue, but he was, putting in great performance after great performance, perhaps the fans would be like, look, we need to keep him, because regardless of what's happening off the pitch, he's doing it on the pitch. But I don't think he's particularly had a great game in a while. And also, he plays a similar position to what Arteta used to play. So I'm sure Arteta knows what to look for, what attributes to look for in a player that plays in the centre of the park. And maybe he's just not seeing that in Matteo. And that's why he's happy to get rid of him or force a move at least.
I also
mean,
think
if we sold him and got Partey, I know it's obviously wishful thinking, but I mean, that's obviously the hugest upgrade we could ever do. But I mean, that is massively wishful thinking. But I mean, if that was the plan where we sell Guendouzi for 38, 40 mil and then get Partey for 45, I mean, that just seems like incredibly good business to me, considering how much Guendouzi we bought for him.
I think Guendouzi played well in a massively dysfunctional Emery team. You know, when the formation was bizarre and the tactics were confusing, Guendouzi really shone, I think, and maybe not so well in the Arteta team. But I think either way we go with Guendouzi, if we sell him, I imagine, we will get a reasonable amount for him. But also, I think he probably will improve. So I think, either way we go with him, if we keep him for a bit longer or sell him, I think we'll do okay.
The other one, guys, was Ozil then that I mentioned. Back problems, apparently. How many different excuses have we heard now?
Do we even care anymore, though, to be honest?
Yeah. I've lost. I didn't even mention. I forgot you'd even said it when you asked me that question. I forgot you'd even said his name because I was just like, if it's happened the same thing under Emery and it's happened under Arteta, then for me, I mean, and it was kind of happening under Wenger, but Wenger just shielded him so much. Like if it's happening under all these different managers, then it does kind of point towards something other than the manager. I mean, everyone did give so much slack. I mean, everyone gave so much grief to Emery over this whole saga. But I kind of was siding a bit more with Ozil on this because I think more just out of loyalty to Wenger really than anything else. But the more this has gone on and the more I've seen him just unable to play away games, it's just like I've just lost. I mean, the thing is that I don't even hate the situation anymore. I've actually just got bored of it. And I think that's probably the most dangerous thing for someone like Ozil, who kind of prides himself or kind of relies on PR as much as he does. Like fans now just don't even care whoever he is. It's just lost interest because you can't just constantly not play and then just do a tweet saying "Yeah, Gunners, yeah," and then everyone just expect you to still like care because you don't, because like it's your old news. Like you're not even playing well enough. Someone was saying that who was it? This player got. Oh, Andy Carroll's got more assists than Ozil has in the last 2 seasons or something. In the last couple of games, Andy Carroll's got more assists than Ozil has in the last 2 seasons. It's like, it's crazy, man. That's a crazy stat. How is that happening? We're paying like that much for a player that Andy Carroll's outperforming. It's like, oh, God. But yeah, I've lost interest, basically.
It does seem very sad, actually, when you look back at the excitement of him joining. It was pretty childlike. Christmas is here. Oh my God, Mesut Ozil plays for Arsenal. And we did have a bit of that magic, and we do have some nice memories to call upon. But I was thinking about it today, and no amount of, I keep thinking, oh, maybe it'll turn around, maybe we'll get the real Mesut Ozil back. But no amount of vintage Mesut Ozil can now turn this around and make the situation better. He's 31 years old. He's like siphoned now millions out of the football club. Even if he came back and played at like vintage 2011 Mesut Ozil, I don't think that would make the past few years okay. I think maybe an amazing FA Cup goal would kind of gloss over everything a little bit, and I might be able to forgive it. But ultimately, like the fact that you've hinted that you've stopped caring, I think really tells you all you need to know about the Ozil situation. I think we can't really afford to focus on him too much anymore. We've got to focus on the here and now. And look, there was a lot to like today, right, in terms of the here and now. Dani Ceballos, he promised a lot, didn't he? But didn't really deliver in an Arsenal shirt. Who knows if we're going to retain him? I don't know if we should, but I will never forget this goal from him. I thought it was lovely stuff, wasn't it, Dani Ceballos? Unexpected. We thought Pepe had screwed it up. Ceballos from an acute angle. Like they mentioned the starfish, Schmeichel's behaviour from the goalkeeper. There was a cool head from Ceballos, and no matter what happens forevermore, I'll like him because of today.
Yeah, it's something about FA Cups and just justifying loan deals, Kim Kallstrom kind of style. But yeah, it was smart from Ceballos because you could see that Saka and Nketiah were kind of waiting for the cutback, and both of the Sheffield United defenders were marking them. nobody thought about him having a shot. Great stuff from him, but again, really the only good thing he did all match. I'm not convinced of his. I don't really know what role he plays. He's not particularly great at defending, and he's not particularly great in the transition going forward either. So I'm fine with him not staying on after the end of his loan. I think.
Man of the match today, guys. I haven't actually checked who the man of the match was, but who's everyone's vote? Ben, you start.
I don't know. I thought Xhaka played all right. I wouldn't call him my man of the match though. Tierney was okay. I think overall pretty average overall. So
I'm glad that's not Arteta's post-match speech in the dressing room. You were average. You're okay. Yeah. So you're going with who are you picking?
I'll give it to Xhaka.
Going at Xhaka. All right, Eduardo, who are you going for? I'm going for Tierney. Attitude, by the way. Just like loved it.
Yeah, no, I was gonna go for Tierney as well. You're right there. I mean, there were a few players who did well. Nobody did exceptionally. Xhaka as well. Just on that, how good is it to have him back? By the way, and having somebody who actually has a defensive nous, a positional nous in the middle of the park, and can hold it up and knows when to pass forward, pass back. Yeah, but Tierney for me, I think.
So important, Xhaka. Yeah. What do you reckon, Tom? Man of the match?
Yeah. I mean, I think it's either Tierney or Maitland-Niles. To be honest, that's how much I love Maitland-Niles. But I've obviously clearly got an agenda, pro Maitland-Niles agenda. But yeah, Tierney. I think it was. I mean, that cross that you mentioned. I think it was the last. Yeah, that cross you mentioned where Pepe he drilled it in so low and it was like a shot. But obviously that was in the 85th, 86th, 87th minute. I can't remember exactly, but it was definitely late on in the game. The fact you just have him bombing forward that much and then hammering a ball into the box, that was a dangerous cross at that level of the game when he's been doing that all game, up and down, up and down. I mean, it's something that if we did sort out our fullbacks, they're so important to the way we play. That if we sort that out, I mean, we've been saying it literally since Tierney's joined all season. As long as we get Tierney and Bellerin back, then you'll see the real Arsenal. But it's true because when you get our fullbacks operating, then you do really start to see something that's more akin to the Arsenal that we're used to, really. And yeah, so I mean, it's good to see him, and I really hope that he'll basically just crack on from here.
So good result. We go marching on to the semi-final. We've got Norwich next in the league, which you'd like to think. Well, you'd like to think, you can't say that with Arsenal, can you? But you would like to think they would perform. Okay, as we wrap it up then, what's your biggest takeaway from today? Because I think there are so many more positives. I think we've just touched upon a few of them. And Pepe is another one, which I didn't mention for man of the match. He could have had a hat-trick. I think he's got 8 goals, 8 assists, if I'm not wrong, which is starting to look fairly reasonable. He's another positive of today, and he could smash it next season with the right players around him. But what's your biggest takeaway that you want to see going into that Norwich game today? Going into that Norwich game in a few days' time. What do you want to see implemented? We've messed about with a back three. We've had Holding come back in. Different thing, Aubameyang could come back in, and Nketiah's been used in the past few matches. There's a lot going on there. We're seemingly trying to figure things out in the smaller and larger sense.
I like the back three. I like the formation today, actually. And I think, was it Matt Upson who was doing co-coms or something today, said that he reckons the only way David Luiz can play or can do well in this team is with that formation. And I agree, because he's got a bit of defensive cover there. So I would like that to continue and probably see pretty much the same team. Maybe just I want to see Aubameyang and Lacazette play together against Norwich. That's my one hope.
What's your takeaway, Ben, from today? What do you want to see moving forward?
I want to see more of Tierney staying fit. It'd be nice to see a bit more of Maitland-Niles as well. So, we've got 2 good sort of options at fullback. And up front, I mean, I'm not sure what I think about Nketiah yet. Lacazette, for me, has just not been doing it for the last God knows how long. So... But yeah, obviously Alba back in the team, and more from Pepe, continuously more from Pepe would be fantastic.
What do you think, Tom?
It's a weird one for me because I think Arteta obviously doesn't trust Uber as the lone striker up front. That's why he keeps on playing him on the wing. And we actually worked better today without either him on the wing. But then it's like then he should be able to figure out a way of playing him up front. But it feels like he doesn't trust him as the sole striker up front. As a front three, which is weird because it's like I really don't like him on the wing. I think it actually takes away from the rest of the team because having someone like Saka, who's obviously a natural left-sided winger, and Pepe, who's a natural right-sided winger, obviously when he cuts in, like it works so much better for the balance of the front three. And even if having someone worse up front like Lacazette or Eddie, worse than Uber as a finisher, they seem to be better at holding it up. So I'm still a bit confused about what's going on there with Uber and where he even kind of fits in. So I don't think I'd want to see him on the wing, but I mean, I would like to see Saka, Uber and Pepe up front. I mean, that would be the ideal front three for me. I mean, just with a way of figuring it out so that Arteta somehow, figures out a way of making Uber slightly better at hold-up play, or I don't know what his reservation is. But I mean, for me, yeah, I'd like to see that front three, and then just as the rest of the back. The rest of the team seems to was working pretty well. I like the back five. I like Xhaka and Willock in midfield. I think Willock's basically now that Ozil's been kind of shunted out, I think Willock's basically just taken his place, and I'm pretty comfortable with that. So yeah, everything that was there today, but obviously just with Uber instead of Lacazette, and I'd be happy with that.
Yeah, and maybe not the dodgy sort of misjudgment from Holding, followed by the equally dodgy clearance from Kolasinac. We could do without that. But overall, nice and positive. Arsenal into the FA Cup semi-final. Hopefully we have many more victories to mull over in the coming weeks. Big opportunity for the likes of Willock and Nketiah in the back end of this season to kind of grab the bull by the horns. Thanks for joining us, boys. East of Highbury, up the Arsenal. Have a good one.